I like building relationships, and I think you're the same way.
Yep.
I love building relationships with people, and if it's always a gallery or a gallery director who's dealing with the client or the collector, then I like I like I like the one-on-one with those relationships, and so and those relationships. I've got great friends now who I didn't know, 10 years ago, who are now great collectors, but they're also great friends because of that.
Sure, of course. I
Yeah,
mean, that's the best way. I would say most of my friends are my artists, which is really
yeah,
interesting. I just can
yeah,
relate to them so much better than most other people. You
yeah,
They
yeah,
love what I love. They do what I want to see. And,
yeah,
I would, for like Ed Mell, for example, or Howard Post or any of these guys like that,
yeah, yeah.
Little John, Terry Moyers, it's a friendship first, really, and the business part second, uh,
Right.
which is what's
Yeah,
great. And you can develop those. I don't know if I think a lot of galleries probably don't have that, but I think some do.
yeah,
Uh, but I think some probably it's just more of a business and a product or whatever.
yeah,
But, you know,
yeah. And the other thing is nobody cares about my work, or nobody cares about an artist's work like the artist.
of course.
And so again, some a lot of artists are just not equipped or comfortable dealing with that one-on-one
Yeah.
collector artist relationship, and I totally get that. And that's where I say, hey, go find you an awesome gallery and a gallery, and
Yep.
go dive in with them, because that's what you need. And then for younger artists, I say the same thing. For younger artists who have a good portfolio of work, go find you a great gallery, and lock on with those guys, and build that relationship for 10 years or whatever,
Yeah.
or forever. And because it's a very smart move. So
Yeah. And even yourself had to have galleries at the beginning.
absolutely,
And,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it also gives you reinforcement when it's out there that things people like and they go, oh yeah, we're getting a really good response for this. Or it just sells and you go, well, we're obviously getting a good response from it because
yeah,
everything sells.
exactly,
And
yeah.
and so right now, are you just focusing on what you've been doing, the same imagery, or is new things kind of popping up in your mind and going, I want to try this?
Uh, yes and yes. So the modern Cowboys series that I started, in 2018, I continue to play with that,
I would think.
and that evolves and the reason I'm doing this because I'm having so much fun with it, that I still am loving doing it. But simultaneously, I'm creating other things. And Mark, part of the reason I'm doing that is because I don't want to be the artist that got stuck in a box, because
Yeah,
there's so many.
can happen too.
It's so easy, especially when you start to make money and when you start to get in big museums and all this kind of stuff. Then it's like, oh, I found my niche. I'm gonna, I'm I'm in my rut, and I'm just gonna keep going because it's comfortable and I know I can make a lot of money. And complacency is the biggest killer. And so I don't want to become complacent with my art. And so that's why I'm always experimenting with three-dimensional things: photography, film, music,
Hmm.
other disciplines, architecture, sculpture. But then with painting, I'm also in that avenue. I'm also, like this show I had at Art Space 111 earlier in the year. I presented several canvases, big canvases, completely different look.
Hmm.
Now, did people like them? I don't think so, because nobody bought them.
Hmm.
but but that was a self-imposed, um, kind of trick. It was just like, hey, John, you need to put something else out there. Don't be scared to put something else out there, because there's a fear of somebody not liking it.
Right.
I need to be pursuing failure every single day, because it's only in those failures, I figure out, well, do I want to continue down that road or not, or that worked or that didn't work? So we encouraged our kids when they were growing up, man, yeah, go fail.
Yeah.
Go fail at something, because that means you're doing.
Right.
And so I'm continuing in that mode, staying curious and being willing to fail and present things that people may not like. And by the way, I'm not in the business to make people like things. If I like it, I'm going to present it,
Yeah, sure. Of course.
and but it doesn't mean, again, it doesn't mean everybody else is gonna like it. So, and some
Yeah.
things take time.
They
Some
do.
things take time. That's why, I mean, yeah, yeah, and you could name many, many artists, but there's some things that just have to percolate and just have to kind of simmer and stew a little bit. And then I've always said sometimes you have to show a person something 100 times for them to see it once.
Yeah.
And that's I continue to present things. And somebody just yesterday on Instagram said, "Oh man, I love that new piece you just did." And I said, "Thank you so much. I appreciate that. That I did that 10 years ago."
Mm,
But this is the first time they'd ever seen it. But they said, "Man, that just looks like something that's so fresh and looks like
right.
something you just did." And I said, "Well, thanks." And so, um, anyway, so I continue to experiment.
Yeah, I have to laugh thinking about Ed Mel because, he'd be putting out these really modern paintings and,
Yeah.
we'd get pushback because people want his traditional. I want the traditional. I want the traditional.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then at that flipped at some point, which I knew it would. And
Yep.
like, oh, I want this one type. I really want the
Right.
more, modern angular. So, and as an artist for him, he was just like, well, I'm going to do what I want and I enjoy it. Same with
Yeah.
the flowers,
Yep. But
just
that's
great
what
flowers.
yeah, that's what I love about Maynard.
Yeah, he did the same.
Maynard took chances. He had this look, but then he went down this modern, more expressionistic, abstract kind of thing. And I was like, that's killer. I love that he didn't stay in his lane.
Yeah.
He got outside of that. Now, those probably aren't the most collectible
I'm
pieces.
one of the most collectible, actually.
Are they really? Okay,
Yeah,
because they're
like
so
the
rare,
social
right?
realism stuff, which
Okay.
he only really did from like 33 to 39, you know,
Okay.
and that was all emotionally driven through Dorothea Lange
Yep.
and,
Yep.
the depression and labor,
Yep.
strikes and all that. So it came
Yeah.
from the heart, but it wasn't something people wanted. But now it's definitely what they want because there's not as much, right? Sometimes an
Exactly.
artist does a series like Fritz Shoulder did the Indian series for 10 years. And
Yep.
then everybody just wants that. They don't want the other stuff. And
Yep.
but
Yeah.
that'll change too.
Right.
At some
But
point.
those are the guys I look at, Mark, and I go, man, that's an artist. That's an artist. Is somebody who continues. Picasso's the easiest example. The
Right.
evolution of Picasso's work, easy example. He continued to evolve and evolve and evolve and experiment and play. And, he obviously got looser and looser and looser the older he got. And in the 70s, he was just like,
Yeah.
but he continued to be a kid. And that's what's so cool, because you have so many artists, and I'll speak specifically with the Western art genre. And by the way, I'm not a Western artist. I'm an artist that happens to enjoy the Western genre.
Yeah. Who
But
also
I love
has their
all.
roots in the West,
Yes.
from the dirt up to the family to the genetics,
Yep.
you're an artist who is from the West,
Yes. Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. And there are a lot of guys and gals who do um, get they do get stuck in that rut, and they do the same thing over and over and over. And I would be bored to death
Yeah.
doing the same thing over and over again. That's why I have to keep mixing it up. Um, and that's what keeps it interesting for me.
Have you done sculpture?
Uh-huh. Oh yeah.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it seems like it would just be perfect for that.
Yeah. I did a part of my modern cowboy series. And so I work with scrap wood. I mean, these things are built like a kid built them. My dad's a precision woodworker.
Right.
Everything is precise, and everything's got to be just perfect. I think I rebelled from that, just like Pollock rebelled from his
Right.
teacher and said, no, I don't want to paint like that. I want to throw paint, and dribble paint. And so I said, I want to build things that are rough cut and don't match up and are scrappy. But then when you look at the whole and the finished piece, you go, oh wow, it's cool.
Yeah. And they're all 101 wood pieces. Is that right?
It's wood. I do some stone things. I do some things with fabric, like an old beater Navajo, something
Yeah.
that's just too far gone. I'll repurpose that and do something
Yeah.
with it. Um, Again, just always experimenting.
Do you know, you may or may not have heard of Leonardo Drew? Do you know that artist? He's
Man,
a,
I know the name, but
yeah,
tell
his
me.
stuff. Yeah, his stuff is like that. He's a
Okay.
fantastic artist out of New York City, Bronx.
Okay,
Uh,
I'm writing
yeah,
it down.
Leonardo Drew. I did a podcast with him, in fact,
Okay.
maybe 4 years ago, and he works with repurposed wood and
Yeah.
object scraps, and he's in the Guggenheim and the Whitney and all these. But
Oh,
I
cool.
mean, he'll
Yeah.
inspire you, or at least he inspires me to see
Yeah.
what he can do with these things, and sometimes color, sometimes not color. But yeah, check out his work.
Okay. I
And,
will.
and I want
Thanks.
to, I've got to, so where do I see the sculpture? Is it on your Instagram account, on your blog? Where is it located?
So yeah, Instagram. I mean, if you scroll enough, you'll come across some of the sculpture pieces for sure. Painting and two-dimensional is my primary focus,
Right.
but yeah, I do have quite a few sculpture pieces. And yeah, you scroll back enough, you can find some. And for our purposes of discussion here, I'm happy to send some of those images
Yeah,
if
do, and
that's
we'll put
helpful.
them actually on the podcast component
Yeah.
of, because we have a YouTube part and we have an audio part. And so where do people find you if somebody wants to, who has heard this and go, yeah, I'd like to check out his work or maybe even get something? How do they do that?
So the uh, the social media that I keep up with the most and I'm most focused on is Instagram.
Yeah.
And so Instagram is JonFlaming. So it looks like Jon Fleming. Um, that's the easiest way. I've got my
Yeah.
website, which is jonflaming.com. Those are the two easiest ways to find my work. Um, I'm okay with keeping up with my website. I'm great with keeping up with Instagram
Yeah.
for this reason is that Instagram, of all the social media, I believe Instagram for artists has really leveled the playing field. So I can be a one-man shop or I can be a 20,000 employee shop, and we're all dealing on the same playing field because it allows me to be as big or as little as I want to be. And it allows me to reach the same audience that big company is reaching. And
Yeah.
so I had this dream years and years ago, way before internet and phones and all that kind of stuff, that I went down in our neighborhood to a telephone pole and took one of my big paintings and just nailed it up to the telephone pole so that people that were driving by would see my work, right? So I posted my work on a telephone pole. Well, that was kind of this foreshadowing of what I'm doing now. I'm posting my work on a telephone pole every single day for 6 to 7 to 8 billion people. Not everybody has internet or phones, but for a lot of people
Mhm.
to see my work, this audience that I never imagined I would have this kind of an audience or potential to have this audience. And so that's why Instagram for me is so critical because and again, I'm very hands-on with marketing. That's my background, design, and so I'm very hands-on with creating the look and the brand and the feel for my page, and that's been huge
Yeah.
in how I sell my work, market my work, and how my work is viewed.
Yeah. Well, it's
Yeah.
interesting, because I've been familiar with your work for a while now. all online, right? Everything always online. And then I go
Yep.
to the Far West show in New York City, and I finally actually get to see it in person, which
Yeah.
is, it's interesting because it's better, obviously, in person always is. But to have those shows or whatever they are periodically, it does
Yep.
allow people to have an intimate relationship and dialogue with a
Yep.
piece other than just online, because you
Uh,
can't capture certain things the same, the brush strokes, the feel, the paint, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So
You're
I
right.
spent more time looking at your work in that show than I did any other artist, because it was like,
Interesting.
yeah, because it's like my opportunity to actually look at the work, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't know where else I'll see it, anytime soon.
Yeah.
But we'll
And
figure that
I
out.
have a number of, yeah, I have a number, and you're right, Mark. And so I have a number of collectors. So Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2 to 4 is when I see collectors in the studio. And so there's not a week that goes by. Most weeks, not every week. I've got people in the studio, collectors from either in town or out of town, who say, "Hey, we're flying into Dallas for this and that. We'd love to come by and see the studio, see your art in person." And so the comment that I get the most is, "Man, I had no idea how much depth and texture there was
Yep,
to that piece." And
yep,
then secondly, I had no idea how big that piece was, because we're looking at things that
right,
postage stamp.
right.
And so to your point, Mark, yeah, you don't a person doesn't understand, understandably, they don't understand um, the size and the depth of these pieces, because how can you at that size?
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
it's a different
you're right.
relationship. To stand in front of one of your big paintings is a different relationship, you know,
True. Yeah.
and which was good. I mean, I was really, believe it or not, that was one of the reasons I wanted to go to that show.
Well, hey, on that note, Mark, I will tell you, I've been following your stuff for years and years and years as well. Back when you were in Santa Fe, and
Yep.
um, uh, I believe you probably don't remember this, Mark, but I'll share it with you anyway. I sent an email to you many, many years ago. This was probably when I still had my design studio.
Right.
And I think I probably sent along a few different pieces long before I was doing modern cowboy, or doing what I'm doing now, just introducing myself. And I think you were very kind to just say, "Hey, thank you so much for reaching out." But yeah, I was following you with a passion, because I was going, "Man, this guy, he's got Dixon, he's got all this Native American stuff going on." I mean, you just, and still do, uh, continue to just have a hold on me in terms of what your eye, your aesthetic, what you're collecting, what you're promoting, and then with this podcast series that you're doing, I think is fantastic. So, you're huge, huge admirer of yours for a long time, Mark.
Yeah. It's hard even for me to imagine that that's my role, that I'm that at that point in my career, but it's gratifying when I hear stuff like that. And
Yeah,
and it just shows you, yeah, I've turned down some great artists. But
yeah,
usually when that happens,
absolutely.
I would like to believe it's because they're not quite there yet. And I can
Yep,
see it.
yeah.
Uh,
And I
and
wasn't quite there yet.
yeah, I
I
mean,
wasn't. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, and it's fun, even if I don't get that artist and they blow up and do great. I love the fact I got to see the image, and I love to watch that transition, because
yeah,
I know, having done this long enough, that there are going to be artists. I can see it sometimes. I go, yeah, this person is going to get there. This person is
yeah,
going to make a difference. Um, and it's going to be fun to watch. And hopefully
yeah,
they might think of me again when they find that point in their career and come
yeah,
back and go, yeah, I'd like to, maybe give it a go or do something with you. And that has happened. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
so it's,
Well, I wanted to share that with you, because
yeah, I
you
appreciate it.
had a impact and influence on me for sure, Mark. So
Yeah,
thank you.
that's so cool.
Yeah,
It's a fun job, man. This is a
yeah,
really fun gig if you can figure out how to get it.
yep,
Um, and I think it just comes down to passion and work ethic.
yeah.
You
You're
know,
right.
if you have
It,
those
it
two things, you're probably going to be pretty successful.
And that, no, you hit the nail on the head. It's, yeah, passion for sure, but then it's the boring day in, day out,
Yeah.
just the grind, right? Every day that people don't see, the
Yep.
behind the scenes that people don't see. And the best way to compare it, I guess, is like with an athlete who's training,
Yep.
and lifting every day and pitching or whatever every single day, reps after rep
Yep.
after rep. And it's the same thing for you and for me. It's like that's what we're doing every single day. And the final painting is wonderful. And the question I get all the time as an artist is, man, how long did it take you to paint that?
Right.
And I get the question, as a layperson, I get the question because I would be asking the same question,
Right.
but the flippant answer from me is, it took 25 years
Yeah, that's right.
or more. And then I tell them, what it actually took. But I say that painting came about as a result of years and years and years of just, like you said, Mark, just getting up every single day and making the decision to work.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
see it. I used to see it in medicine. A great surgeon could go in and make one cut through the perineum all the way down the muscle, and then boom, boom, he's got the, appendix out or whatever. And,
Yeah.
it doesn't take 5 minutes, but took him a long time to get to that point where he could do that. It's
Good
exactly
point.
the same with an artist. It's exactly the same.
Yeah.
Time has absolutely no influence to how good the piece is or quality. Dixie could do things very quickly. He could do a
Yep.
major drawing in 30 minutes. That
Right.
stands the test of time today. But man, he took a lot of hours to get to that perfection,
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
So
To make it look that easy. Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, how many nights did you sleep thinking about paintings on a telephone pole, trying to work out how am I going to do this? How am I going to get people to see my stuff? What, the
Yep.
cowboy, the modern cowboy that comes to you, how does that work and how do I do it? And, does that doesn't even go into the painting time. It's just the
Yep.
constant creating moment of thinking and how do I do this and will it work? And maybe it doesn't work. And then you have to
Right.
start over, like you said, not being afraid to fail, because you are going to
Yeah.
fail. I mean, I failed too,
Exactly.
continue to fail. So
Yeah.
it just
No,
really not at the same thing.
exactly. Yeah. And that's exactly what it is. It's just
Yeah.
doing it every day. And then there's those moments of the aha moments
Yeah.
where it hits and you go, that's why I've been working so hard on this particular thing is for this moment. And when it
Yeah.
hits, it's like striking gold. It's like
Yeah.
hitting a vein of gold and going, wow. That's why I kept digging.
Yeah. I'd like to see you
Yeah.
dig on some of your parents' early, those early memories of being in the church and music and preaching. And I could just see that
Yep.
translating into, you may have already done it and already thought about, probably have, but, translating into something unique that
So,
you,
so no, that's a great point, Mark. I mean, I love that you said that. So I've done a series of churches, but I'm actually taking these journeys out into West Texas and other parts of
Mm.
small rural communities. I'm actually heading out tomorrow to do this, uh, to find these little churches in these rural communities and to try to, and I haven't figured it out yet, but tried to tell a story
yeah,
that pulls from my background, but then also pulls from this Texas, West Texas, blue collar ranching,
yep,
oil rig guy aesthetic, uh, or background, and tell a story with that. I don't know how that's going to look yet, but absolutely, that's something I've been working on, noodling with for a number of years.
yeah. Don't forget Eastern New Mexico,
Yeah,
Portones, Clovis, Floyd, Melrose, House, all those little towns
true.
there.
Yeah,
There is some unbelievable imagery. Uh,
true.
and some of it's just, I grew up in that area. It's just painful to see these
Yep,
old houses with the one or two elm trees that are basically dead. And,
yep.
that farmer didn't make it,
I
or
know.
ate it but no one else wanted to do it, you know.
Right.
And there's a
Well,
hundreds.
yeah, no, you're right. And I see that every time I go out, I
Yeah.
see more and more of that very thing.
Yeah.
And so I've got several signed Russell Lee books, right? And so
Mm,
go back to the Depression days
yeah.
when you were seeing that just all over the place. But I'm seeing that played out big time now. There's these abandoned farmhouses
Oh yeah.
that they just for whatever reason couldn't make it,
Yeah.
um, and all
Often
these
I think,
corporations buying the land up,
yeah.
and
Well, in places like where I grew up, the oil is not there. The Permian Basin is south. It's in Artesia and,
yeah,
and Hobbs and Carlsbad. So those guys have exploded tons of growth and industry and all sorts of things. But once that you get a little further north and you start getting, to PEP and, those different places up there,
yep,
there was no oil and the groundwater's running out too.
yeah,
So, they have the double effect and, kids, it's hard to make a living as a farmer or rancher. So they can't take or can't or don't want to take over that farm. And so
yeah,
when the parents or grandparents die, it just, it's gone and they just leave it, right? Nobody wants it. Um,
right. No, you're exactly right. I was out in Stanton, Texas, about a month ago, and very small little town. There's old abandoned farmhouse, probably late 1800s farmhouse, just wide open, and it
mhm.
had huge modern cowboy canvas that had just a slight flaw in it, so it ended up being reprinted. But it had this big 4x6 modern cowboy Kansas or a canvas of a guy with a rattlesnake. It's called Cowboy with Rattlesnake, and I took it out to the middle of this field to this old abandoned house, and I nailed it up to the
Mm.
side of this old abandoned farmhouse. I gave it away now, so now somebody can go find it. But I just put it out there with the intention of somebody can, if somebody finds that, you can have that.
Right.
So it was a printed canvas, big canvas on the side of this abandoned farmhouse, and I took a couple pictures of it. But I left it as a gift. It was just, hey, here's
Yeah.
something for somebody if you want it.
Yeah. It's
Um,
Bansky. Bansky of
huh?
the West. That's Bansky,
Oh yeah,
but you're
same
doing it in a
same yeah
different
same
way,
kind
but
of
same kind of sensibility.
yep
I love
yep.
that.
I did the same thing in Marathon where the Gage Hotel is, and put a big 4x6 piece up, took a photograph of it, did a little reel of it, and I did a thing on Instagram. I just said, hey, if you take your picture with this and post it, and I pick your name, I'll send you, a free piece of art.
Yeah.
And it was in town. It was by a little railroad tracks, old wooden building, and it didn't even have a chance. Didn't have a chance to anybody to photograph it because it was gone like
Yeah.
that. It disappeared. So it was like, and I knew that was a possibility, but yeah, it didn't stick around for long.
Maybe you
So
have to paint one of your paintings on it where, it's
well,
more likely to stay.
so Carol Peterson, who's the GM at the Gage Hotel, historic hotel. If you've never been, the Gage Hotel is probably one of the coolest hotels on the planet. Built in 1926 in Marathon, out in the Chihuahuan Desert.
Yeah.
But Carol Peterson's the GM, and so she and I have been friends for a long time. So she said, "Hey," I said, "What if?" I said, "What if we did a mural in town on one of the on one of the side of
Right.
one of the old buildings?" And so we're in talks right now to do just that very thing, Mark,
Yeah.
is to put a permanent something up.
I love that stuff. I was
Yeah,
out in South Dakota and saw a big grain elevator that had just the most
yeah.
magnificent mural on it. I literally just said, we got to stop. We got to do something on this. This is great art. Just sitting
Oh,
out in
that's cool.
yeah, it was out in the middle of nowhere in South Dakota. And
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
driving
So did
by,
you
it
end up
said,
doing a piece on it?
yeah, it's on my Instagram account.
I'll check that out.
It literally stopped me in my tracks and said, we got to stop, I got to go do I mean, some artists took a lot of, and we know who the artist is now, but took a lot
Yeah.
of time and energy and effort to paint this huge grain elevator.
How
And,
cool. Yeah. I
and
love
it
that.
adds to the community. You put that mural up and where you're talking about, that's going to add to the community. I think art changes
Yeah.
people, changes the way you might affect one kid who goes, holy
Yeah.
crap, you can do stuff like that.
Exactly.
Maybe I
Yeah.
have to, do fences and run the farm. Or what?
Right. No, you're absolutely right. When we were in New York City, Mark, so we were staying the Lower East Side at a neat hotel, and we were having breakfast one morning in a little restaurant right down the street from the hotel, and it was trash day. And so on the curb with these big boxes that were
Yeah.
waiting to get picked up, and they were all filled with all sorts of cardboard and trash. So to me, a big box is an empty canvas. It's basically just
Yeah.
screaming, put something on me. So I always carry around these big fat black markers.
Yeah.
And so while we're eating breakfast, I went outside onto the sidewalk and just did one of my big cowboys on the side of this big box. And I posted it, and we left. And 10 minutes later, I think I'd left something at the restaurant. 10 minutes later, walked back down to the restaurant. It was already gone.
You are in New
Somebody
York
had
City.
taken, I know.
I would have
See,
gone and
somebody had
grabbed
taken
it if
all,
I had been in that area myself. If I had seen it, I totally would have gone over there.
yeah, somebody took all the trash that was in that thing and piled it neatly next to another box,
Yeah.
and took that with them. So it's funny.
I hear a project is what I hear.
You know what? There's always something in the works. Interesting story I have to share with you, because you were talking about New Mexico, eastern New Mexico, and western Texas. So on the border is a little town called Farwell, and
Yeah, I know
that
where Farwell.
okay. So that's my great 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 uncle Charles B. Farwell was a senator from Chicago, very powerful, very wealthy man. He and his brother John V. Farwell, very influential in the 1860s, 70s, 80s.
Yeah.
Had great connections all over the world. In the 1870s, I believe the state of Texas state capitol burned down. Nobody liked the building anyway, but it burned down. Um, uh, so the state of Texas came to John and Charles B. Farwell and said, can you guys help us secure financing? We don't have the money to pay for this. Can you help us secure financing for this building? They went to England, where Farwell is there's royalty in England, and they were fascinated with the West. I mean, England still does have a fascination with the West. I went to England, secured $3 million in financing for the state of Texas, presented that to the state of Texas. They had $3 million for you guys to build your new capital, which is the one that exists today in Austin. It's the big pink granite building. In exchange for that $3 million, they got 3 million acres, which is the XIT. So that was the 10 acres on the border of the Panhandle up in far west Texas, that became the XIT Ranch. And my great 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 uncle was not a rancher; he was a businessman,
Right.
and so he wanted to sell all that to make his money back, get his finances squared away, get people paid. And so over the years, all that, or most of it, got sold. But for a time, that XIT Ranch belonged to Charles B. Farwell and his brother John, who, that's my mother's side of the family. And even my grandfather, my great grandfather is Charles B. Farwell, and my cousin is Chuck B. Farwell, also Charles B. Farwell. He goes by Chuck. So that name has stayed in the family. But I always love telling that story, because that's an interesting Texas tie-in with people who weren't from Texas; they were from Illinois.
Yeah, that's interesting. Have you gone
Yeah,
to that ranch and driven all around in that area just to see the land?
I've been out to the XIT. Haven't spent a lot of time out there, but have been out there.
Yeah. Well, not a lot out
Um,
there. It's West Texas
no,
Panhandle. It's pretty flat.
exactly, exactly.
Antelope
Yeah,
and some deer and
yeah.
cattle, of course.
Which which I love. I mean, I love
Beautiful.
being out on the plains.
Yeah, no, I like those.
Uh,
Can't help it. It's built into you.
yeah,
When you grow up in an area, whatever that area is, I think it kind of just imprints on your mind. So for me, it's flat,
yeah,
open horizons, which is what I like probably about Dixon. He's such about his horizons were so open.
exactly. Yeah. Oh, there's just nobody that painted like him. And the crazy thing is, um, you know, there's so many Dixon ripoffs. There's so many guys trying to paint Maynard Dixon.
Yep.
And that's the reason I'm doing what I'm doing, is that Maynard's already been Maynard, and
Yeah.
Russell's already been Russell, and Dunton and Rembrandt, I mean, or Remington, they've already been themselves. And so why would I want to try to recreate what they've already done? They've already done it, and they're heroes.
Yep.
Um, I need to get on a new horse and make a new trail. And that's
Yep.
really my whole objective, is that I don't want to be just another Dixon or Dunton, because I won't be. I can't be. They've already done it.
Right.
But I see so many guys, and and again, everybody has their rationale on why they do why they do what they do. But I just didn't want to do the same thing that somebody else had already done.
Well, I can assure you, you have not. You've got your own original voice that stands out in a plethora of voices out there. It definitely stands out.
Well, I mean, I appreciate that. That was the goal and the risk at the same
Yeah,
time.
of
But
course it is. Big time. Yeah,
it's been
it's
it's
working.
yeah, it's been good. Yeah, for
Is,
sure.
is
So
there anything you want to share as we kind of wrap this up? Anything that you have coming up or we kind of talked about your Instagram and website, but is there anything
yeah,
advice to young people?
yeah. So I a couple things, Mark. One is I speak at SMU, Southern Methodist University, once a year, to some of their advanced design, advertising, art classes. And one of the things I share is the very thing we talked about a little bit earlier, and that is, um, if first of all, it's the passion, like we talked about, but then it's that work ethic. It's deferred gratification. And I think in our culture, and I'm guilty of it too, in our culture, we want, like, I want it now. It's the Amazon package theory. I want a package on my porch every day, because I want
Yep.
something new that will get me excited every day. But I just say, hey, it's this deferred gratification. It's doing the work. It's getting up every day. It's doing good work and sharing good work. It's like, do good work and post it. Don't worry about doing perfect work, because there is no such thing. It
Right.
does not exist. Do good work. Now, some of your work's going to be better than other work, but do good work and share it, because and the thing is, not everybody's going to like what you're doing,
Right.
and be thankful for that. That's art. It's
Yeah.
subjective, and not everybody likes it. But you're going to find a tribe. You're going to find a group of people that are loving what you're
Oh
doing,
yeah.
and keep doing it, and keep doing it, and keep posting. And you're going to build this community of people that love what you're doing, and you love what they're doing. And it's just going to be fun. But it takes time, just like it's taken time for you to do what you do, Mark, and me to do what I do.
Yep.
But these younger people, and again, I still am guilty of it at times, they want it now. They want to be good now,
Yep.
and noticed now, and in a gallery now, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I say, it's coming. I promise you. If you have a heart to do it and you work at it, I promise you, it's coming. It's coming. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but it's in some form or another, it's going to happen. And I've seen that played out time and time again with people who are consistently doing the work. It's like they'll call me and go, hey, man, I had no idea, 5 years later, 10 years later, here's what I'm doing. I had no idea this was going to happen. And
Yep.
at the risk of going, I told you, I just go, man, I'm so excited. I said, that's because you stuck with it.
Yeah.
That's because you stuck with it. And it took, it evolved, and it was an organic thing that might not have looked exactly what they thought it was going to look like, but it became something that was significant for them, and they're loving it and passionate about it and doing it every day. So that's the one thing I would share with younger people. Don't give up. I mean, especially in the Instagram social media world,
Right.
we're so tempted to, number one, do perfect work and make our work look like it's great. And we're so tempted with numbers. We're so obsessed with numbers. Like, I got to have this many followers, and I've got to do this many posts, and I've got to do, I just say,
Right.
forget that. Be consistent with showing it. You want to show up every week showing some work. Forget the numbers. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about who's following you. Don't worry about the likes. Don't worry about any of that. You just keep doing what you love to do. Keep sharing it, and things are going to start happening slowly but surely. They're going to start happening, and some things happen for people really quick.
Yep.
For most people, it takes time. So I just say, don't give up. Don't give up. Keep going. And then I also wanted to say, Mark, thank you. When I met you in New York, I saw you from across the room, and I was going, I think we kind of saw each other at the same time because we started visiting, but I was like, oh man, this is so cool. I've always wanted to meet you.
I felt the same way.
in person. I was like, oh man, there he is. It's like in person. And so I was so glad we got to meet in New York, Mark, and have just been such a fan of what you've been doing for so many years. And so thank you very much for doing the little short interview that we did in New York, but then also reaching out and doing this longer thing that we're doing. That means a lot to me, and I'm so honored and proud to be a part of this series, Mark. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, you're an important cog in this wheel,
Well,
People will come back to this. They'll come back to this video at some point, this podcast, and they'll be like, oh, when they're writing something about you, you may be gone, I'll probably be gone, but they'll go, wow, I'm so happy that we have his voice and that process and what he had to go through. It's important. I see it. That's why I do this anyway. It's like,
well, I love what you're doing, and thank you again for including me, and your kind words mean a lot, and I'm looking forward to continuing the relationship and whatever that form looks like. But thank you.
Yep, there'll be plenty as long as I can keep moving, and if not, my son will have it too because he likes your work as well, and
it was great. It was great to meet him as well. Yeah.
He's out on the res right now working at one of the trading posts, and then he's gonna be doing some silversmithing. So he's out learning and understanding the process.
I love that. Yeah, he's doing the work. I love it. I love it.
Work,
Yeah.
To do the work. Gotta do the work.
Yeah.
All right. We'll talk soon. And thanks for taking the time. I see that's one of the things. You took the time to do this, right? You didn't have to. You took the time. You could have been painting. You could have been doing other things, but you said this is part of the work. This is something I need to do, even if it means nothing until I'm dead. It's still part of what I have to do as a successful artist.
Agreed. Absolutely. And I love doing it. I love engaging with
it's fun
with people, other people who are passionate about what they're doing.
I may have to go on one of these trips out to like West Texas, Eastern New Mexico when you're doing this house thing. I may have to show up and do some photography and be in that thing because it sounds right up my alley.
It's fun. It's just, I mean, you get it. You understand it, and those are the people that enjoy it the most. And so, I would love to do that.
Everyone I see is history, it has a story. Every one of those houses,
exactly
what it is, but you can kind of maybe, get a glimpse of what it was, even if it's just like the shades or purple, inside the house, which are faded now to almost gray, that kind of stuff. Something about those homes and those little towns, it just haunts me, honestly. So
I'm the same way. Yeah. Every time I walk in, like you, I'm wondering who lived here, what was their story, what were their ups, what were their struggles, and I'm
Yeah.
sure the struggles probably outweighed the victories, you know, in that time, but all the good and the bad and the ugly
Yeah.
inside that home, and even looking at the shiplap walls and the newsprint, you
Oh, yeah.
know, that has been put on those walls and going, oh, 1924, you know, and starting to kind of put some dates to things and finding an old photograph that's stuck in a corner or something. That
Yep.
you start to kind of put at least a few of the pieces together, which is cool.
Yeah. It's there. They're all
Yeah.
there. It's just,
Yeah.
trying to figure it out. Some of it you won't, but yeah, I've always been one of those. I'm driving along in those areas and pull over my truck somehow. We're out in the middle of nowhere and jump the fence.
Yeah.
Let me go see what this is. You know,
We should definitely do that.
yeah,
I'll
keep me in.
remember that, and we'll figure out a time to do that.
Yeah, that would be super cool. I'd love to do it. I'd love to watch
Yeah.
your process as and what you're doing.
Yeah, I would love it.
All right,
Mark,
John.
hey, thank you so much, buddy. I appreciate the conversation and look forward to visiting again soon.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, John.
Okay,
Say hi to
buddy.
your wife for me.
See you.
All right. Thanks.
I will.
All right.
Bye-bye.